Hello, this is Haley with Returning Hope Ministry. Last week we met together and we talked about the red horse of the apocalypse following the white horse, and we discussed how different events in the world, wars, famines, disease, can cause people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. We talked about specifically how churches are closing due to the coronavirus outbreak, and how in Hebrews it tells us to, no matter what, even though we see the day approaching, that we should join together and fellowship, worship in community, and not to ignore that command. Well, today I am sitting in my room. I am not with my class. I am in my room looking at throw pillows, trying to focus on how to deliver this lesson today. It was a difficult decision, but we have got to understand that how we act definitely affects people. It affects how they live their life. So I was prayerfully considering this and working through all this and going in with the knowledge that my husband works at a bank and is definitely exposed to different, germs and different people and different things on money and all that kind of stuff. And one could say that exposure could be brought home. And since most of the people in our class are more in the high risk category, we wanted to make sure that we kept everybody safe. We wanted to be a good neighbor and love people well by staying out of their way, in all truth. I was thinking about how the scriptures always says, greet each other with a holy kiss. Well, we don't do that. We shake hands. But even now, we're not shaking hands and definitely not greeting each other with a holy kiss in America these days. So we've got to work with what's happening and do our best to still stay in fellowship with each other while using our noggins. I was doing some research and finding quite a few blogs and articles that were referencing Martin Luther during the time of the plague. I found that very fascinating. Now, it's no surprise to people that Martin Luther is not my favorite character of history for how he treated the Jews and the things that he wrote against them that was later used by Adolf Hitler. But at the same time, I have to say he was very brave for nailing those 95 theses on the church door, and also working so diligently at translating the Bible into the German language. I mean, that took so much courage and hard work, which I greatly admire him for. But looking at the pamphlet that he wrote during the plague and how he was urged to leave his area but decided to stay, and the reasons behind that and his response for it was fascinating. And there's one little part here that I want to draw your attention to. And he says, "No, my dear friends, that is no good. Use medicine. Take potions which can help you. Fumigate house, yard, and street. Shun persons and places wherever your neighbor does not need your presence or has recovered." So basically he's saying, use your head. He goes on with, "Therefore I shall ask God mercifully to protect us." Now, that I love all day long. There's a phrase that we use in our house. You've heard me say it before. It says, pray like it's up to God, but work like it's up to you. Nobody here denies God's sovereignty, but at the same time, nobody here will acknowledge that you are not capable or able to take care of yourself. You have got to stand up and do what you're supposed to do and make things happen. So he says, "Therefore I shall ask God mercifully to protect us." President Trump the other day made a national day of prayer. I hope that you are aware of that and participated on that, because we do need prayer. We need prayer for a whole lot more reasons just than coronavirus, to tell you the truth. But that National Day of Prayer was not well received with necessarily everybody in Congress. If you found that tweet by a certain senator, it's sad. Honestly, terribly, terribly sad that prayer is so ridiculed in such a public display. So, but I'm going to agree with Martin Luther on this one. I shall ask God mercifully to protect us. Then I shall fumigate help purify the air, administer medicine, and take it. I shall avoid places and persons where my presence is not needed in order to not become contaminated, and thus perchance infect and pollute others, and so cause their death as a result of my negligence. If God should wish to take me, he will surely find me, and I have done what he has expected of me, and so I am not responsible for either my own death or the death of others. If my neighbor needs me, however, I shall not avoid place or person, but will go freely, as stated above. See, this is such a God-fearing faith because it has neither brash nor foolhardily and does not tempt God. When we stand up and we say, well, God is sovereign and he's going to take care of me whether I protect myself or not about this coronavirus, so, not a big deal. Well, no, that's tempting God. You're not using your God-given brain and ability to make wise, good decisions that affect other people. That idea has severe consequences in some cases. This is not one of those cases that we want to mess around with. So our class has decided not to meet for right now, but we're going to take it week by week and try to be very, very, very smart and wise about this, but understand that that God is very much in control, and we are very, very much responsible for our own actions. Okay? With that said, Christian, be a first responder. Get out there and help people. Don't be negligent. Take care of yourself. Do a good work. But if people need you, respond in a safe and responsible way. Okay, now on to the lesson. We have galloped with the white horse, then with the red horse, and now we're moving on to the black horse. In some ways, this is going to be repetitive, but I hope that you don't get bored with that. I hope that you can see a little bit more clear again this week how important it is to understand these horses and where they're going to be going. Because the tribulation time will not just happen overnight. There is an incline that we can expect. People would not just accept anybody. It has to be through a time. For the whole world to come together with one thought, that takes years, maybe even centuries, to develop that common thought. So how is it going to take us to that? How are we going to get to a one world government? How are we going to get under the elite controlling the masses? How are we going to get okay with turning over power of the world to one man? How are so many people going to be okay with worshiping that one man? That's what we're going to break down today. So the path of the black horse is just going to continue. Okay. We have seen this in history a few times now. Specifically, we've looked at Nimrod a few times, we have looked at Antiochus Epiphanes a few times, and we have looked at others, King of Tyrus, Jezebel's dad, in Ezekiel 28, and some other places. And we have come to realize that they all look very similar because they follow their father who is the devil. The devil gave them the same game plan because that's what he used in the very, very beginning. According to Ezekiel 28, we understand that Lucifer, which means light bringer, became Satan, which means adversary, because he wanted to be more than what he was ordained and created by God to be. If you look at Ezekiel 28:12, you will see, I'm trying to find it myself, verse 12. There we go. At the very end it says, "You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty." So in verse 13 it says that the day you were created, this is what you were prepared for. So we understand that they're talking about, that Scripture is talking about Satan here, because he was created. And when he was created in perfection, in wisdom, and in beauty. He was a created being. In verse 17, it says that your heart became proud on account of your beauty and your corrupted wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth and I made a spectacle of you before the kings. Okay, so the same things that he was created with ended up becoming his vice. He became proud and corrupted. So what he does here, God has to break the creation that he has already ordained, put Lucifer in this place of hierarchy, and then dismissed him from that place when he became violent with the angels. So his creation was broken because of the sin, and Lucifer's thought was broken because he changed from being beautiful to becoming proud of his beauty. That was a change in his thought that caused deception and corruption. Now, roll back to verse 16. It says, through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. So right here we understand that Lucifer was a high ranking in his hierarchy. He was very, very powerful already, but it wasn't good enough. So he wanted more territory, and he wanted a bigger widespread trade, and so he became violent with the other angels. And when that happens, when violence happens, God got in the middle of that. That's where his sin was in the violence against the angels, and God kicked him out. He was expelled. So Lucifer's ability in his position was broken. So far we've seen a break in creation, a break in thought, and a break in ability. Now we're going to scroll back up to verse 14, where we're going to see a break in the covenant. He says, you are anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. He was anointed and ordained for that position. That was a promise. This is yours. This is yours, what I created you for. And Lucifer did not want that. He wanted so much more. So he had a break in the covenant. And then he was, according to verse 16 again, he was disgraced and expelled because he was not following God's rules. So there was a break in creation. There was a break in thought. There was a break in ability, and there was a break in covenant. And when Lucifer was the light bringer, changed to Satan, the adversary, now we have a being who is corrupted and uses deception to enlighten people, bring them a different truth other than God's truth. And now we have a break from Jesus. Whereas in the beginning, Jesus was not needed for a sacrifice. Now, because Satan is going to bring enlightenment, as he would call it, which is thick deception to the world, and human beings will fall for it and sin and then be born after generation after generation after generation in this sin, Jesus is very much needed. And thank the Lord that he was willing to go to the cross for us. Here's the deal. Jesus was not a plan B. I'm not taking anything away from him by saying he was needed and not needed. What I'm saying is, in the beginning, it was established in perfection. It was established the right way. And then corruption and deception came in. Jesus knew all along what was going to be happening. I have no doubt. He had a plan. And that plan was to bring everybody to choose life. But you have to choose life according to Deuteronomy. There's a difference. And whenever there's God, who is truth and good, well, by default, there's evil. And so somehow there had to be that opposite. And that God and morality the evil proves that there's morality and God and good and truth. So Satan became the adversary, became God's adversary, became our adversary when he decided to pervert or turn upside down his thinking. So all of these people that we see through history that we've looked at, like Nimrod and Antiochus Epiphanes, they are following their father. And they have the same goal that Satan's goal was, and that was to always obtain more. Always obtain more power, more land, more anything and everything. They always wanted more. So if we're looking at the history to understand the future, what we're going to see is that Antichrist has the exact same plan. According to 2 Thessalonians, all of these works are according to Satan. Satan in accordance with his works. So we're seeing that there's no new game plan. It's the same thing repackaged every time. We see it in Nimrod, we see it in Antiochus Epiphanes, and we're going to see it in Antichrist again. So we can know the game plan before it happens. To be the one, like they've all tried to do, the one, the only, that there are some strategic steps you have to take to become the ruler of the world, okay? So he has to eliminate others. Get rid of competition, because if you're going to be one, you have to eliminate everybody else who is a threat to you being that one. So for Satan to do it, he had to eliminate God. How do you eliminate God? Well, you gotta, kick him out of people's lives. So you gotta start young. Let's kick him out of education. Let's kick God out of education from school. You gotta eliminate different things like diversity. You have to eliminate the single authority of that diversity. Because if you have too many different borders, states and countries, you have too many leaders. So we need to break those down so that we can be the one. That one who wants to be in charge of it all has to break down all the other competition. One being God, so let's start kids when they're young, understanding that there is no such thing as God. You are not a creation, an individual, beautiful, diverse creation, a unique and just fantastic creation. No, you are the evolutionary theory of a blob that just started because nothing is created in evolution, but there's no beginning to something. Okay, it's called an evolutionary theory. You're gonna hear me get wound up about this because it's an evolutionary theory. But for some reason, we've dropped the theory word. So to say, oh, we teach evolution in public school today. No, you teach the evolutionary theory, the theory, which means it's unprovable science. So we're going to eliminate the creator, we're going to eliminate God because we're going to take his position as the one. And then we also have to understand that we got to get rid of that diversity because we all have to be the same, because then there's no competition to the one who's taking over the world. We have to eliminate justice and we have to eliminate mercy, because both of those things come together at the cross. Jesus paid the price, that's the justice, and then offers us the rewards, that's the mercy. If you remember in the Old Testament, the Ark of the Covenant is called the mercy seat. Mercy is God accepting the punishment of the blood of the sacrifice, which is the justice. Mercy and justice come together at Jesus. And we have to eliminate that thought. So how do we do that? Well, we just throw sparkles of love everywhere we go. Love, 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 love. We have to love everybody. There is no justice. There is no need for it. Because if everybody's trying to get to their own self, we need to love them to that place so they can be the best them. There is no mercy in that because there's no justice in that. Mercy dissolves if justice is gone. So we must love. Eliminate future generations. Wow, those future generations could be competition to the one who is climbing the power pole. Okay? The one who wants to get to the top. Because masses of people are difficult to control. If you go back to the Tower of Babel, Nimrod, what did he do? He brought people behind walls so that he could have them all together and control them. If they went all over the world, how could he control them? He can't. So under fear, the guise of fear, he brought everybody behind the walls. And there, behind the walls, they thought they were being safe, and really they were in prison and under his command. So let's get rid of those future generations because they could be difficult to control and too many people to control. So let's take a look at justified murder. How can we kill people that other people are going to feel fine about? Let's figure that out first. And for decades, they've been working that out. Okay? You have to have justified murder. Then you need to offer in some sexual confusion. If everybody's confused about their diversity, their God-given identity, which is beautiful and fantastic in every way, and then start questioning who or what they are, then they're going to be so busy trying to figure themselves out or rebelling against what they were made to be in the first place, then they are just going to be so lost, they're going to follow anything that one person says. It's so heartbreaking because as Christians, we should know and understand that our identity in Christ is beautiful. And I'm different, and I'm unique, and I have something to offer, and I'm valuable. That is what we need to remember every day. We are a child of God. Okay, the last way that you can eliminate future generations is you need to give a really strong conviction to people about the earth. That the earth, that nature, that animals are much more important than people are. Now, am I saying anything bad against the earth? Absolutely not. It's our home. And we should take care of the nature. We should take care of animals. We should protect wilderness areas. They're wonderful. We should do these things. Those are good things. I'm not saying they're not. But when it goes too far and we acknowledge that there are endangered species that need help in reproduction and bringing their babies into the world while we're killing our babies to give the endangered species more room to roam, there's a problem with that. There is creation in nature, and it is beautiful, and it is wonderful, and it is God-given. But every single life is so valuable and so important, and it's an eternal soul that we need to consider there. So, the last way to be the one who must eliminate others to be the one, you got to eliminate the personal belief in ability. Get that. You have to eliminate the personal belief in ability while making things smarter than that person. You have got to eliminate the ability of people. You got to convince them that they're dumb as bricks and that you can give them something smarter. Take away their own passion, their own struggle to figure something out. You know those aha moments that you see your little kiddos having? They're starting to walk and accomplish this amazing thing, or they figure out that puzzle and they have this wow, and they're discovering that they are able to walk, or they're able to put together that puzzle, that they're capable of doing something. That is a great, wonderful moment. It's parents, I don't know about you, but I get pretty proud of that. Look at what my kid can do. Yeah, he's able. They're very able. And when we take that away from people and we make things smarter than they are and they start being dependent on the things, now we have a problem. Now we have a problem. So to be the one who is rising to the top, you must eliminate God. You must eliminate diversity and authority. You must eliminate justice and mercy. You must eliminate future generations, and you must eliminate the personal belief in ability. So, we've got to break creation. Just like Lucifer did in the beginning. He broke what God had created. Okay? So we're going to eliminate God and education from school. This is how you break creation. Take the creator out of it. It's that simple. So we're going to look at some definition of some words here. Authority. That means to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience. We're going to look at responsibility. That's the state or fact of being accountable or to blame for something. We're going to look at the process of thought. That is to consider or reason using thoughtful, rational judgment. Now, authority, responsibility, and the process of thought are created identities. These are created, these are from God. They're from the very beginning. Lucifer was created in a position of hierarchy, of authority. Okay? We have to understand as individuals that we're responsible for and what good and evil is and looks like, and the process of thought to consider and reason this out. These are created identities from God. Now, if you look at their opposites, you have entitled, which is believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. See, if you don't have authority in your life, you believe that you get special treatment because you are God. Okay, or you are your own authority. Compromising. This is to accept standards that are lower than desirable. Do you get that? Compromising is going, yes, it works out arguments and different things. I understand we all have to compromise. But in the end, what it is accepting a standard that's lower than desirable. So instead of knowing right from wrong and being accountable to that, we compromise and say, oh, that's not really that wrong. Do you see how those are opposites of each other? And finally, social, relating to society or an organization. Okay, if you are a part of a group, you do not have to reason or use rational judgment. The group will do it for you. So if we take away authority, responsibility, and the process of thought, what you're going to end up with are entitled, compromising social group of a generation. That's how you eliminate God from the education in school. Take the Creator out of the school, and you end up with privileged, special treatment people compromising their standards to get what they want immediately. You see this in 1933 with the book burning deal. About 50 years earlier, you have Karl Marx with the Communist Manifesto, and you have these students who start to organize. And I don't know how much of a leader there was. I think it was more of like a group think situation is my idea. But when they started bouncing off ideas together, they decided that knowledge is unpredictable and they needed to confiscate history and culture, and because that would forge connections, is their quote. Literature is dangerous because it forges connections between people. Now, the problem is in groupthink situations like that where nobody is a leader, nobody is responsible, nobody is taking on reason or thought, you have, a big mess. That leads to entitlement and so on and so forth. The problem is that the stats show today that 51% of American young people between the ages of 18 and 21 support this kind of thought and support socialism. So why? What is the why for kicking God out of education? Why do we want to get rid of God in our books, in our literature, in our thought? Well, it leads straight to the power of deception. It leads straight through to the power of deception. And if we can break creation, then we break people's thoughts. Okay? If you have thought, and the one who wants to take over the world needs you to stop thinking, we have got to eliminate the diversity for single authority. This includes borders and ruling bodies, okay? In every team, in every family, in every church, in every nation, in every military unit, you have a hierarchy. And you have teams that work together. Now, there's always a leader, there has to be. I'm not saying that being a leader is like trying to take over the world. That is completely wrong. That's not, every leader is not a power-hungry, terrible person, not even a little bit. Good authority means that he respects his team around him and works well. Him or her, I may say. So, if we eliminate that diversity, though, and we make everybody the same and take away that accountability and that authority and that responsibility, well, then they're going to look to somebody, and that one person who rises out of all that craziness is going to be who they look to. So, according to the Civil Air Patrol Cadet Program, I have 2 boys in Civil Air Patrol, the 4th Division of the Air Force, who I'm very proud of. They state actually this right here. What makes a great team? In their leadership manuals, this is what they ask. And their definition is, great teams use individuals' special skills to their advantage. They say that TEAM stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. So you have authority and respect to the diversity of the team, and the team leader gives the opportunity to make a solid decision. If you have diversity, you have reason-thinking, able-bodied people, I don't care if they're kids or adults, any age, working together at a common goal, and there's a responsibility, they can all work together for the leader who brings obedience and structure to the team. We can do great things. It's proven over and over again because this is the way God designed it to be. Teams always need leaders, okay? And leaders always need input and feedback from the team. If you don't have a leader and you just have a group, the opposite of this is that groupthink stuff. Groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision-making outcome. All you have to do to understand groupthink is understand what happens when you put about, 4 or 5 junior high boys together. Do they come up with really good ideas? Okay, now, creative, sometimes humorous, but a lot of the times dangerous or irresponsible, okay? Now, hopefully they're going to grow up and learn from those kind of things and have really great stories to tell their grandchildren later. But the point is what I'm saying is groupthink is what happens when you put junior high boys together in a room and say, go for it. What are you going to do? They need a little bit more structure than that to be successful, Okay, you can see this example in the Tower of Babel. They had one leader, they had one goal, they had one religion, and they had one thought, according to Genesis 11. We've returned to Nimrod over and over and over again. But we have to understand that, that Nimrod was just really that first Antichrist-like identity. Okay, I am looking for something here to share with you, and I'm not just coming into it. Let's see here. Well, all authorities, according to Romans 13, are put in place by God. Like I said, hierarchy and authority does come from God. We have to have it. We have to do it to function. And God established that according to Romans 13, 1 through 2 and verse 4. All borders are also established by God according to Acts 17, 26. And we need to understand why. Why does that one who wants to take over the world need to break down borders? Because we understand in Revelation that it's going to happen, that it's going to be set up as like somehow 10 kingdoms or whatever that's going to look like. And in the end, Antichrist is going to rule most of the world. Why do we have to break down those borders? Because God gave very specific borders to Abraham for his covenant. In the very, very beginning, he said, from here to here to here to here to here to here is your promised land. And the descendants of Abraham have yet to see that. They have yet to see that covenant established. Now, we understand from other classes that greater Israel is going to be established during the millennial kingdom of Jesus Christ when he rules the world from Jerusalem. And according to Genesis 15, those borders are going to be established. It takes up a lot more space than what they currently have. And it's not a bad thing. This is the covenant. This is our promise-keeping God part of it. It's going to be, okay, if you struggle with this at all, then understand that God has to keep his promises, because not only is that his identity, but what hope do you have if he doesn't? He has unfulfilled covenants waiting to fulfill them at the right time and at the right place. And for Satan to get what he wants, to be in charge, to be the one who rules the world, we have got to break down borders so that this covenant does not happen and it doesn't get established with the Israel people. So now we're going to break the ability. We got to break people's belief in their own ability while making things so much smarter. Okay? If you work hard and accomplish, this will make you feel strong and intelligent. with a sense of pride and freedom. It goes back to that little kiddo again, making the puzzle for the first time. He's just beaming and he's excited and he's proud that he did it and he's free to do it again. And he's just so excited. I mean, one of my favorite phrases growing up, or having kids grow up, is, "Look what I did, Mom. Mom, look what I did." And back in the way early days of having kids, it was scribbles. It was scribbles, but they were so proud of those scribbles or those colors. And then they start going to color pictures, and they're not in the lines at all. But look at what I did, Mom. And oh, it's just wonderful. And then they get a little bit older, and then they start figuring out how to color inside the lines. Oh, look at what I did. And they're so proud. And there's so much freedom and ability, and it makes them stronger. They have a desire to do better. They want to do better, especially when they get interested into something. Something really sparks that fire, that God-given passion inside them. They want to do better and want to do better and want to do better. Look what I can do, Mom. No hands. Yeah. Right? They continue to do this amazing, they have this amazing sense of pride, and they get more intelligent, and they accomplish more and more and more. And that's part of growing up, like a key part of growing up. When you have a dependency on things, it will make you vulnerable. That's not entirely a weakness, but it's not a strength as well. It makes you more vulnerable. Now, I just question for you to think about, do younger generations think that they are smarter for being able to use smart tech? That is an interesting thought. If you want to compare the generations right this minute, do you think that the people in the 1920s were smarter per se than the people in the 2020s? Now we have the smart tech, we have the smart clothes, and we have the smart haircut. We can do amazing things today. But can people today do what people in the 1920s did? Can they build a car? Well, our cars are pretty smart today. Some of them even run by themselves. That's pretty smart. Well, yeah, but can you build it? Back in the 1920s, a lot of them could just build it. So that's just something to consider. Do you think that smart tech makes this generation smarter? Okay. Does that same pride move over the avenues of life? That's my next question for you. Do you think knowing that you can use smart tech will make you even more proud than the person who could, build a car in the 1920s? Or who could can all their food for winter? During that hard work, they accomplished such a hard work, and maybe they couldn't read or write their own name, but they had abilities and skills that go far beyond what we can do today. But we have smart tech. I'm not saying that we don't have our own, amazingness here. I'm not. I'm just saying, are we as proud of what we can do today as they were back then? Something to think about. There's new technology coming out every single day. My question is it going to start getting smarter than us? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's amazingly brilliant. But does that put us in a position to look up to it? Does it put us in the position to honor it? Does it put us into a position of worshiping it? Well, according to some Buddhist priests, yes, it does. Today, there are Buddhist priests in the world who are bowing down and worshiping a robot that over 24 hours a day is giving a recorded message of Buddhist beliefs. Google it. Look it up. Why, if you want to take over the world, why do you have to work with developing idols or making people not able to do what they're doing? Well, Revelation 13 through 15 that thought is starting to set us up for what's coming according to Revelation. It says, he was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast so that it could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. We know, according to Revelation and Bible prophecy, that there is a time coming where people will worship idols again. This, was really not that cool over the past few centuries, right? Okay? It was not the cool thing to worship idols like it was back in the ancient times of scripture, like biblical days. Way back when, you have stones and you have wood idols and different things that people would bow down to. Really wasn't very cool to do, but here we're doing it again at different religions in some places of the world, but they're robots this time. Man-made robots. It's the exact same thing. Except in carving wood or chiseling stone, we're putting together, plugging in wires, giving it a face and bowing down to it. It will happen again. It can't just happen overnight. So we're seeing this incline with people getting ready to, because they understand that things can be smarter than them. So now we have to look at how to break the covenant. If you're going to break the covenant, just like Lucifer did in the beginning, break the creation, the purpose of your identity and what you are ordained to do and be, today you have to eliminate the future generations. Okay, that's breaking that covenant with justified murder, sexual confusion, and conviction for the earth. Okay, justified murder. I use those words very specific because justified means that somehow the world is okay with it. Most of the world, at least. Or we're told that the world is okay with it. Okay? Abortion being one of those things. Last week we talked about how now we have a holiday for the honoring the abortion provider, people. Right? Thank you so much. We're going to give you a day. You provide us with abortions. Yay! It's your celebration day. That's kind of sick. That's really sick. That's very upside down. It's very upside down. These are justified killings. If the law says it's okay, then hey, it must be okay. Morality is out the window when it comes to this. Now, gender confusion, that's a tough one. That's a touchy one. And it's getting closer and closer to every single person in America. Gender confusion, if you haven't already found yourself in the middle of that situation, you will sooner rather than later. It's really sad. But it really just breaks my heart because there's such a beautiful, each person is such a fantastic, unique creation by God, and I wish I could pour that truth into every single person. And that they could know that they are loved and treasured for how God made them. But with these things, with abortion, with justified murders, and with gender confusion, future generations are eliminated. Look at Europe right now. They know they're in trouble. So why do we have to destroy people to become number one? Well, we see this with, persecution. In Revelation, if you understand where we're going here, why all these things are happening, because in Revelation, the 7-year tribulation doesn't, like I said, happen overnight. There has to be an incline rising to that climactic point. So up until that climactic point, we see an increase in gender confusion and abortions and euthanasia and different things like this. Okay? We should understand that there's a height in persecution. We should see that Christians and other intolerant religions like Judaism, there's going to be persecution there because they're intolerant to beliefs that go against their belief. There is persecution for this that's happening in the world right now. And it's only going to increase until Antichrist himself is hunting Christians and Jews during the tribulation. Now, Christians during tribulation, wait a minute, Haley, you tell me I'm going to be gone by then. You are going to be gone by then. But if you're a believer on this side of the rapture of the church, the rapture of the church, which will happen, and I believe very, 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 very close to the tribulation time. We're not getting out of anything here, folks. We're here to work until the very, very last minute. We're here to bear witness and put truth into people who are lost and broken and hurting and confused. We're here to help them, to speak life into them, to be that salt and light, to be some of the only kind truth they might have ever heard. And when we do that, it's going to be done until the very last minute. But before God's wrath hits, we know this from Scripture, the church will be caught up. Our redemption will come and get us. And so we should see an increase in persecution. Now, when the church is gone, other people around the world will learn and hear and decide to follow Jesus during the tribulation. There will be many Christians during that time. I'm hoping many, many, many. They will have it very hard. They will be hunted down. It will be terrible and ugly, something that I don't even want to imagine or think about. But this persecution will increase until that time, and then at that time, it will be a disgusting, unimaginable display of persecution against the Jewish people and all followers of Jesus Christ, according to Matthew 24. Now, you have to break Jesus and his truth to be number one, because you got to get rid of God. You got to get rid of Jesus. And the way to do that, the way Antichrist is going to be doing that, is eliminating justice and mercy. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, so we should be seeing a climax to this. We should be seeing an incline to that climactic event. We need to get rid of justice and mercy. The place where Jesus stands is at mercy, where mercy and justice meet. And if people are not taught that God is the authority, justice and mercy are totally irrelevant, even though it applies to every single person. They have no concern for their souls if they choose not to believe that they even have one. Justice and mercy applies to every single person. But if you choose to reject that, you're on the path to death anyway. You're going to stay on that path. You have to choose life. You have to choose that justice and mercy are real, that they are definitely a part of your life, they're a part of your being, and that they are found in Jesus Christ. That is what needs to be found. But if you eliminate justice and mercy, what do you have? You have a generation, you have a people that believe love is the only answer. Brian McLaren, people call him the godfather of the emergent church. The emergent church is a blending of Christianity and postmodernism, to say that love is all that you need. Love over law. There is no such thing as law. It is all tolerance and love. He once was cited for saying that we could look at Gandhi's life as an example of self-sacrificial love, or Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. There would be a lot of people we could look at. And so wouldn't it be better to just talk about Jesus as one among many, rather than lift him up as some extraordinary example? Because by doing that, we create a perpetuate this Christian elitism and exclusivism. Oh, I totally butchered that one. Because by doing that, we perpetuate this Christian elitism and this exclusivism. I cannot say that word. Exclusivity, I want to say, but it's not. Exclusivism. Okay, we're exclusive. If you follow Jesus, Jesus is exclusive and elite, and he has his own way. Boy, that just does not roll off the tongue, let me tell you. But Jesus said in John 14:6, he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. So he is rather exclusive, okay? And we have to choose that. We have to choose that. Oh my goodness, I apologize. What is the why to eliminating law? If you want to get rid of Jesus, break Jesus, and eliminate justice and mercy, all you have to do is get rid of the law. Okay? You got to get rid of absolutes. There's no such thing as right and wrong. Everybody is on for themselves. Find themselves. And that's what Antichrist is going to bring. Everybody is going to be the same. They are not going to be able. They will not be proud of their success. They will be upside down in their thinking. They will not work as a team. They will work as groupthink. They will follow one person because he just told them to. After decades and decades and decades of work moving towards this incline of Satan and all of his demons convincing people of this deception and this enlightenment that he brings, Antichrist will be welcomed in as a hero. He will be set up, and the rulers of this world will give him the authority that he has always wanted, but it'll be short-lived. He will rule-ish, I'm going to say ish, for 3.5 years, and then somehow he gets hurt or he dies. I don't know the ins and outs. Satan doesn't can't bring life. God allows it. I'm not entirely sure. But at 3.5 years, he will have the opportunity to stand up and say, worship me, I'm God, from a newly built temple in Israel. The Jews will reject him, Christians at that time will reject him, and he will start persecuting and fighting them. He will go after them with a fury and a vengeance because they will not bow down. And for another 3.5 years, it'll be the worst years between Antichrist's wrath and between the wrath of God with different disease and earthquakes and natural disasters and plagues and wave after wave after wave of wrath from both sides. Coronavirus will look like a picnic. I hate to say that. I hate to say that with everything in me. But going through the coronavirus right now in 2020 and seeing the deserted streets and seeing the empty shelves and feeling the fears of people around me, I feel like I have a little bit better of an understanding of how bad it's going to be in the tribulation. And I totally realize that I still don't have a clue. That's how bad it'll be. I still don't have a clue, even though I feel like I understand a little bit better because of the experiences that we're going through right now. Now is the time, Christians. Get up, spread the gospel, help people understand their beautiful God-given identity, that they have worth, that they are able, they are capable, they can think, they can submit to the authority of Jesus, which is all truth and all freedom. It's not a list of do's and don'ts. It's a list of, please don't live this way because it's reckless and harmful to you. Live in freedom over here. It's a beautiful way to live. And everybody is created to live that way, but they have to choose to live that way. After 3.5 years of the worst hell that's ever going to grace this earth, I hate to say it that way, King Jesus will return. He will absolutely return, and he will set up his kingdom on this earth for 1,000 years. Revelation 22:12 says, pay attention. I am coming soon, and my rewards are with me to give to each person according to what he has done. We referenced that last week, I do believe, or not too long ago. And Jesus says, hey, I'm coming soon. Like, this is not when he said this to John such a long time ago, like, I'm coming as soon as I'm coming tomorrow. But this I'm coming soon means that when you see these things start to happen, it's only going to get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And I'm coming. Like, I'm going to be coming after this. I am coming to visit you. I am coming to take control of my creation and establish it the way that it was established in the first place, that it was supposed to be. I'm coming to bring peace to this earth for the first time. So when he says I'm coming soon, he means after this incline and this climactic event of that is continually moving faster and faster and faster and faster, that soon is in relationship to that time. He's going to come and he's going to reward each person to the work that they've done. So, hey, there's incentive for you to keep moving. Let's go, Christian. Because there are crowns and there are rewards. Remember, we talked about this last week. Heaven is not a reward. It's our home. It's our beautiful home that's been prepared for us. But there are rewards to get during this time. And during coronavirus outbreak is a beautiful time to be thinking about this. There's the crown of righteousness, according to 2 Timothy. The incorruptible crown, according to 1 Corinthians. The crown of life in Revelation. The crown of rejoicing in 1 Thessalonians. And the crown of life again. Wait a minute, I have that on there twice. According to 1 Peter 5. The one in Revelation is about sacrifice and martyr. The one in 1 Peter is of shepherding. Those who have shepherded other people. Shepherd the flock, shepherd the sheep. Okay? We have a lot of good work to do. We have a lot of grand opportunities right now. So until he returns, Christian, do a good work.